what you get in your kit. You will receive 4 ornaments, all ready to paint. They're all shrink wrapped. They come with twine and the wood beads, a picture of what your ornament should look like. Doesn't mean you have to follow that color pattern though. You can do it however you'd like. And some instructions. So you get 4 ornaments. There's 1, they're all different. 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then along with the wooden ornaments, you will receive paint, a paintbrush, and paint sponges. All colors that you need are included. You get extra white, green, red, orange, brown, and black. And then a fine tip detailed paintbrush. That is all that's included in your kit. Some things I recommend to have on hand while painting your ornaments. Maybe some paper towels and some water to rinse out your paintbrush. One thing I'd like to go over real quick is that sometimes it's easier if you take a pair of scissors and cut each of these paint pots if you'd like. If not, no big deal. It's just sometimes when you go to open them, I know it can be hard and then it ends up spilling paint everywhere. So if you just cut these, then you have individual ones and then it'll be a lot easier. Now, once you have all your ornaments open and set out, you will see that all the pieces are individual, and then you also have super glue included into this kit, and you will super glue these on after you are done painting. One thing I would like to note is that some of your pieces might have some smoke on them. That's from when the laser cut the wood and it just leaves behind a smoke mark. If that's something that bothers you, you can take a little bit of sandpaper and easily sand it off. I typically do that, already sand them, so most of them should be mark free, but you might see some on your pieces. I only sand the front of the pieces, so you'll notice that sometimes when you flip over a piece, it's going to have a lot of smoke mark on it, like this one. That's okay, it's going to be glued on here, so no one will even see it. So the back parts might be a little bit more messy than the front, but that is okay. So just remember that when you go to glue pieces on or paint them, when you go to paint them, say like these hearts, you're gonna wanna paint this side because the other side looks like that. Painting over it isn't very easy. It will bleed through your paint, and so then it'll leave that smoke mark on it. So just keep that in mind when you paint your pieces. The cleaner side is the side you want to paint. All right, let's get to painting. Today I'm gonna go over painting techniques that I like to do. First one is gonna be starting with how I paint my pieces all white first. Every single piece is gonna be painted white. This gives a nice base coat for all your pieces. So since our wood is brown, when you add red to it, it's going to be like a deeper, darker reddish brown color. If you add white to it first and then paint it with red, it's going to be a very vibrant red that pops. Start off by painting all your pieces white. So I'm going to use the foam that I include in the kit for painting my white. I'm gonna take it, dip it in my white, and brush off the excess white. You really don't want a lot on your sponge. And then what you're gonna do is pounce on your pieces. So I start here and I pounce. Okay, so now when you come to the part where it has, this is called a score line from my laser. My laser made the marks on here. You're gonna want to make sure that you pounce over that as well. These are just, you're gonna fill that in with black paint later on. So these are just guides for you to paint. If you get paint inside the lines, it's okay, not a big deal. I personally like to just try to not get paint inside of it. It just helps me see the details more once it's all painted. Okay, so just pounce over it like that and keep going with all of your pieces. Okay, I wanted to quickly show you something with, this is the bandana that goes on one of the snowmen, the snow woman, snow lady, and it has the details of the lines in there. So that's not something you paint in, that's just there for the details. You'll want to be very, very careful when you're painting it with white and red so you don't get the paint on the inside of those, so you will see those details. So if you have a little bit of paint on your sponge after you painted something else, that's the best time to go in and lightly, just very lightly pounce on the bandana so you don't get a ton of paint on the inside of those lines. If you do, not the end of the world. It still will look like a bandana. So, there we have it. Okay. The same thing will go for your holly leaves and the berries that go on top of it. Your ornaments come on a piece of cardboard when they're packaged. Don't throw that cardboard away. Use it as, you can either use it to put it on so you can paint and so you don't get it on your table if you don't have something covering your table. Or you can use it when you put your sponge in your cup to get paint, and if it doesn't come off enough, you can use it like this and then go and paint your pieces so you don't have a ton of paint on your sponge. You can just quickly dab off a little bit on your cardboard. This will also come in handy when you're getting paint with your paintbrush and your fine tip, and if you have too much on your brush, you're going to want to like take some off and then go and paint in your excess. Okay, everything has a single coat of white paint on it right now, and I still have a ton of white paint left. I barely used any of it. You should have plenty of white. It doesn't look like a lot when it comes in this cup, and the cup is barely even filled in, but it's enough. From here, the pieces that are going to get painted a different color, you don't have to do a second coat of white. My suggestion though, for the pieces that are going to be white, like the snowmen, I would suggest doing a second coat of white. Personal preference, if you don't want to do that, that is totally fine. It's up to you. Alright, so now while my second coat of white is drying, we can move your ornaments off to the side. Let those dry, and now we're gonna go to the detailed pieces. Here's the part where you can paint it however you'd like, but if you want a guide, refer to your picture on the back of your ornament packaging. So here I painted his hat black, and then green holly and red berries and an orange nose. Very basic, your traditional snowman, right? So once again, totally up to you, however you want to paint it. Those colors are included in your kit, and so up to you. So I will start with my Mr. Jolly Snowman, as I named him. He has the brim of his hat, so that is going to be black. You have a second foam brush, whatever you want to call it, in your kit. This is where I like to cut this into pieces because your pieces are now getting smaller and you're gonna need 5 different colors. So I will cut this, cut the tip off. There's 1, 2, and then I'm gonna turn 3, 4, and 5. So cut it however you'd like. Yes, they're gonna be small, but that's okay, it will work out. So I'm gonna use one of these for the black. I'm gonna dip it in my black paint. If I need to take some off, I'm gonna use my cardboard piece because there's quite a bit on there. Kind of take it off and then go in and paint my piece. Pouncing is your friend, especially now because there's a white base. If you swipe, it's gonna show white through it, and you don't want that, trust me. You need to let each layer dry completely. Now this is acrylic paint. It dries very fast. So I'm talking, give this, I don't know, 3 minutes, it should be dry. As long as you're using light layers, 3 minutes, it should be dry. I'm gonna add another coat to it once it's dry. The black hat will need to be painted, but I think, no, that's pretty dry. We can go ahead and paint that. So I'm gonna paint the top of his hat. You will see that his brim goes here, so you don't have to paint all the way down to the edge of it. Just paint somewhere up here, right? Like from here on up, and then you should be good to go. Okay? Kind of gave myself a little baseline of how that's supposed to, how far it's supposed to go down. Use my little sponge, cardboard, and start pouncing again. Ta-da, that should be good. Right? Kind of like, looks good to me. I'm gonna let that dry now. Let's move on. Red. There's a lot of red. So now we need, I'm onto this snowman, the snow woman. She has her red bandana and then the red banner. So that's what we'll do next. We'll do red. I'm gonna take another new sponge piece. Pull my red up here so I don't make any messes over my unpainted pieces. And start with my red. Nice and bright since we added that white layer. Remember, nice light coats. They don't have to be thick or heavy. It's actually better to do 2 light coats than 1 thick coat. You get a nice smooth finish when you do it that way, and they dry nice. Now onto the bandana. I'm just going to use what I have in here because I don't want the red to go into the lines. I want those details to show through, so I'm using nice light pouncing with very little amount of paint on my sponge. Ta-da! It might not look completely covered, but then we're gonna go in with another coat, so let those dry. He has a red scarf. Here's your scarf. Red buttons. Okay, and then the red detail on the candy cane. Alrighty, so let's start painting the scarf and buttons. Alright, so for the candy cane, this is where we're gonna use our brush because you're filling in the fine lines and you're gonna want to use the brush instead of your sponge. The brush is gonna come, it's gonna be like kind of hard, so dip it in your water to get it all softened up. Kind of take off some of that water. Paper towel. Alright, now dip into your brush or your paint and start painting your candy cane. Nice, simple, easy strokes. I always like to go in the same direction. Always go in one direction. Don't go in multiple directions. These are easier if you're going perpendicular with the lines that are engraved on your piece. We're gonna let that dry. These are all looking good. Rinse out your brush right away. So use that cup of water that you got yourself, or take it to the sink and rinse it out because you're gonna use it for other colors. Back on our sponge, moving to the last ornament. This is the, I guess you call it like the lip of the container the snowballs are sitting in. So we're going to paint that. And then the sign gets painted red. Okay. We're going to let that dry. You can use your brush for this area, this part if you want, since it's so close to the white snowballs. Yeah, maybe I will. I think I'll just outline that area just so we don't go over it with our sponge. So I'm going to use this to just give that edge a nice clean paint coat. Okay. This says 25 cents on it. You're going to actually end up painting that in black. To make it easy, am going to just paint over the entire thing red. And then later on, we're going to go back in and paint in the black with the paint brush. So don't worry about the 25 cents right now. Just go ahead and paint over it. Clean out this brush. Never want to let paint dry on it. Okay, I'm gonna go back over the red. They should all be pretty dry now. So I'm gonna go back over it with a second coat. Done. Next. Done with red. Wow, my paint pot is still like full. Done. So I'm gonna close it. That way I don't make a mess with it. Okay, I want to go back to this black and do my second coat of black. I'm gonna leave the black open because we still have to do detail on that one with that color. Alrighty, now let's do orange. All the noses need to be orange. So here's 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to use the smallest one sponge that I cut because these are tiny and that's all we need to paint. So orange. Sometimes holding your small pieces are the easiest way to paint them. Okay. Now we're done with that. Let that dry. As it's drying, we will move on to the brown. The brown is only the arms on this snowman. If you wanted to, you could not paint them white and just leave them the brown. Personal preference, I like to paint it brown. Okay, let that dry. We'll do a second coat. Green. That's our last color, so that should be our last piece of sponge. Okay, I'll let that dry. I'm gonna go back to orange. Do my second coat of orange. Orange is done. Go back over the brown. I decided, my picture shows the bucket is gray, but I'm actually gonna make it green. That way it kind of blends in with the other one piece of green that's on the holly. So all 4 pieces will have all the same colors. So I'm gonna make my bucket green. Now remember, this lip ledge goes right here. So just kind of give yourself a line that you don't have to go all the way up to the snowballs because it's going to be covered with the red. But, you know, enough to be covered still. You don't want to see white underneath that. So I'm going to have to do a little bit more, I think. A little bit higher. A little higher. No swapping. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to show you, so don't get confused when the picture on your snowballs ornament has that gray bottom. I'm actually changed it to include the green so you can paint it green, not gray. We gotta let that dry so we can do another coat. That there. Do another layer of my white. Go back. So now you have your white sponge. I actually want a smaller one, so I'm gonna cut this in half to use on my small white pieces. Actually, I'm gonna go wash my hands because I don't want to get colored paint on my white. So I'll be right back. All right, back with clean hands. And I'm gonna do the second coat of white on my letters. Okie dokie. Go back and do a second layer of green. This odd looking piece is actually the snow that's dripping off the edge of the snowball container. So it looks almost like a conversation cloud or something, but it's supposed to be snow dripping and melting off of the edge of the container. Okay, so now here's where detail will come in. We're gonna use our nice brush that's nice and clean and grab our black and start painting in the itty bitty tiny details. You're gonna get some paint on there. Make sure it's not too much. And then start filling in those dots for his coal smile or stones or whatever you consider that in a snowman. For his smile and his eyes. This does not have to be perfect. Just kind of follow the circles, fill them in, kind of gently just touch. You don't have to like try to actually brush it. Just touch, 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 and that will fill in the circles. Okay, you'll see that. There we have that. It is nothing perfect. It is just filled in. Okay? You're going to do that with all of your snowmen. Alright, so now we have to fill in the 25 cents on our sign. This is the most difficult part of all of this painting. And don't stress over it. Well, you can even just leave it like that. If you want, you can still see it, the 25 cents. So you don't even have to paint that in if you don't want to. Totally up to you. You don't have to paint it black. You can paint it white. You can paint it orange or whatever. I just take my time. Fill in how the best that you can. It does not have to be perfect. Got that painted. 25 cents. The noses. So when they get glued on, the carrots are gonna have, carrots kind of have lines in them where they have grooves. So you're gonna take your brush and just make a groove in the carrot nose. I did 3, like that. No rhyme or reason to these. Almost looks like a tiger stripe. Just go for it. Don't try to make it perfect in any way. Carrots aren't perfect. They're all unique when they come out of the ground looking. Okay. I added some white dots, polka dots onto my bandana for when I made the ornaments. So that's something, if you want to do, you can do that now. Or if you don't want to, leave it just red. But you just take your white and just dot, 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 wherever you'd like them. I'm going to clean out my brush because I need to change colors. We are going to change to white. And the holly, the little circles on them need to be white. So you'll see I just painted right over everything. So then now I'm going to fill in those little circles with white, just a dot. Okay, holly berries are done. So the scarf on the snowman, I added some little highlights to it. Down here, we just went whoop, whoop. And the 2 dots. And then a dot here, here, and a little squiggly line. Okay. The hearts, I added some highlights to as well. These work best if you have actually quite a bit of paint on your brush. They're easier to draw. Okay, for the snowball bucket lip, I added some highlights. on the side, corners. Just like you gotta use a light hand. Don't push down, just use a light hand and the paint will just drag lightly across it. So I'm gonna add some polka dots to her thing. No rhyme or reason, just dot where you think it feels like it needs to have a polka dot. Then I added highlights to her, the center of the bandana, just on the corners. If you want to add the speckle effect onto the snowman's top hat, like I did here, all you're gonna do is take your brush, your white paint, and your water. You need your white paint to be watered down. Make sure you have nothing around that is gonna get speckled. You wanna push your stuff away. You don't wanna get the white on it. Okay. Now, you might have to do your black detail again. I should have done this white speckling before this. Let's get some paint on our brush. I'm gonna put it on our cardboard, okay? We're gonna get a good amount of paint there. And then we're gonna take our water, dip our brush in it, and then add it to our paint. Water it down. It's gotta be pretty liquidy. Okay? And then this is gonna get a little messy. You're gonna actually take your finger and flick the brush down onto the black part. So it's gonna splatter. Just keep going over and over and over again. Turning the brush in your hand to get more paint on there. Okay, I need more. A little bit more water. Do his brim. Oh, more paint. It's getting too small amounts. The speckles are too small for me, in my opinion. More water, more paint. Alrighty, I think that's good. We're gonna let that dry. I got lucky somehow and didn't get it on my black eyes. And wash our brush out. Wash our hands because they're messy now. Wash our area. And we have to let everything dry and then we can glue it together. Okay, now that everything is dried, this is where the magic comes. We can start paint or gluing our pieces together. My super glue looks different than what you will have. You'll have a small tube included in your kit. Nonetheless, they're still the same. They're both super glue. All right, so with our Jolly Snowman, his visor, or I don't even know what you call that, the brim of his hat will be placed right on top. The holly will be kind of over to the left, and then the berries go there, and then the nose goes right on his face. The nose is kind of gonna angle up a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the nose. A little bit of super glue goes a long way. You don't need a lot. You don't want a lot. If you put too much, it will take a long time for it to dry. And you don't want that. It's just easier if you put a little bit, push down, and it will dry real fast. The nose does go off the edge a little bit, so make sure you don't put glue all the way to the end of your nose, your carrot nose. Now I'm gonna do his brim. Same with the brim, it hangs over the edge, so do just the center of your brim. Do that, push down. Now we do our holly leaves. Push down, berries. And right in the middle of the holly leaves, push down. Okay. All right, and there we have the snowman, the jolly snowman. He is done, so cute. Next, let's go to the snow lady. She has her banner, crosses in her arms. She has her bandana headband, her nose, and then snow painted or glued over the banner. But we will do, let's glue down the banner first. Always remember that things hang over the edge, so you don't want to put glue on those areas. So inside of the banner, the middle one, and inside. Maybe the edges of where she's holding. And glue it, push it down. I'm going to do her nose. Always have the nose angled, pointing out up. Now her headband bandana. This one you just kind of have to follow along the curve of her head for placement, but don't cover up your hole because you need to thread your twine through it to hang it. Okay, now we'll glue the letters on. Okay, she is done. Snowman, he has a scarf, a candy cane, 2 cute heart buttons, and a carrot nose. I will start with his nose. Angled up. Do his scarf. Buttons. Ta-da! Done. Last but not least, the snowballs. Okay, we're going to start with our lip of the bowl. Line it up on the edges. I'm going to do snowballs. Yeah, that looks so cute with the green. And then our melted snow coming over the edge. And there's that. Now we get to thread our twine and add our beads and we're done. Okay, your kit should come with twine and 2 wood beads per ornament. First, to do your twine, the trick to hanging ornaments straight isn't to just thread it through and then tie it. That will have your ornament hanging sideways. So you're gonna put your ends together and fold it in half. And then you're gonna take the folded loop part, put that whole thing through your loop. Okay? And then put your ends through that loop and tighten. Just like that. Okay? And then you're gonna take your beads and put them over both strings. You put both strings through the bead. Now that they're both on, you just tie a loop, knot at the top. Use both strings and just tie a knot. Sometimes if your strings are too long at the top, personal preference, you just cut them down to where you like it. Or even, you want them even. And ta-da! That's how you string up your twine. One down, 3 more to go.